So all eyes on the Narendra Modi Stadium in Gujarat. Of course, the two test matches that have been played there so far, India's won both since 2021, since the renaming.
Well, that's right. So it's a happy hunting ground for India. But overall, if you take a look at it, Motera has been a happy hunting ground. India, I think, have played close to 16 matches there. They won 6, drawn 6 as well. So overall, if you take a look at the record of how India has performed, I think there are only 2 losses overall. But you're right. As soon as it was named the Narendra Modi Stadium, you played 2 test matches against a very tough team in England. That was an interesting series. You had lost the first test match in Chennai. You won the next. So the series was all to play for when you reach Ahmedabad. And India not only won those 2 test matches, but dominated those 2 games. Of course, the big talking point, Gaurav, right now has been how the pitches are going to be. That's been the headline so far in the series. I'm glad that the headlines have moved from the pitch to cricket diplomacy, as we see in this particular test match. But, you know, a lot of things have been planned, what we're getting to here. I was in Ahmedabad 2 days ago for an event building up to this test match. Probably should have stayed back and witnessed this historic moment as well. But whilst I was there, you could feel the buzz in the air. You knew something big was happening.
And what's that something big that's happening? Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese would be right there at the Narendra Modi Cricket Stadium as the Indian and Australian team play the 4th test match. India already 2-1 up, but in this test series, this is actually cricket diplomacy that we would be seeing. This is 1947 was when India got independence, played the first test series in Australia, in Brisbane. But this time we see another record being made, hopefully.
Well, that's right. Maybe we'll get to see the maximum amount of people attend a cricket match. What we believe that the tickets have already been sold out. And as I said, there is an attraction of this particular test match, the series at 2-1, and then on top of that, to witness both the Prime Ministers, Anthony Albanese's first visit to India. I believe he's a big cricket fan as well, and he'd love to see how his team goes. And plenty to play for in the series, Gaurav. That's because, you know, there's that World Test Championship that India is eyeing. They've retained the Border Gavaskar Trophy, which in fact now is the 4th time in a row that India has managed to retain it. So plenty to play for. And look at it from the Australian point of view as well. They lost the first 2 test matches. They were all but out of the series. They fought back in Indore. And from an Australian perspective, if they were to win this test match, even if they were to draw 2-all, dare I say, this would be one of the finest performances for any team on Indian soil, because we don't see touring teams come to India and win 2 test matches. I think the 2 test matches that we've spoken a lot about, Gaurav, in the recent past, of the 2 test series, have been the test series where Australia beat India in 2004, and then England came and beat India in 2012. And in these 2 big series as well, all they could do is win 2 test matches. So they became historic. Imagine if Australia could do that. But of course, India would want to spoil their party, win convincingly 3-1.
But this is a party where both hope to gain, at least diplomatically. Australian media, Australian delegations, Australian Prime Minister, they've been talking about how excited they are about this trip. Australia views India as an emerging superpower, as a very dominant economy in this region. Of course, there's also China, a common thread both for Australia and for India. So this is a big step forward when it comes to India-Australia relations. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is here. 4 days. He arrived yesterday, was in Ahmedabad, played Holi, and that's India's soft power on display. Australian media has been writing about it, talking about it very extensively. The Festival of Colours. The Prime Minister of Australia also talked about it. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, they'll be watching the 4th test match, day 1 of the 4th test match between India and Australia at the Narendra Modi Stadium. The Prime Minister will be tossing the coin for the match. The 2 Prime Ministers will also actually take a lap around the stadium on board a special cricket chariot to mark not just decades of India-Australia relationship, but that comprehensive strategic partnership being taken to the next level.
These human ties bind Australia and India, 2 great democracies that have common values, and that the binds between us will be even stronger going forward. And I know that when the gulal that we've scattered today has drifted away, the ties between us hearts and minds, family and friendship will endure and flourish.
So that's the holy tilak on his face. And let me quickly cut across to India Today's Saurav Akhtania joining us from the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad, was earlier the Motera Stadium. Saurav, lot of excitement. Apparently 1 lakh tickets have been sold for this match.
Yes, absolutely, Gaurav. And what an atmosphere outside the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. Let me cut across the live visuals over here. This is the Narendra Modi Stadium, and most importantly, this is the 4th and final test match which will be played between India and Australia. And if India is going to win this particular match, it is going to qualify for the World Test Championship, and that is what the people over here are actually excited to watch this match. One of the most important things, Gaurav, here is that it is the very first time when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be watching this particular match for the very first time at this Narendra Modi Stadium. And what are the security arrangements over here? You can see there are several gates, and this is gate number 1 from where the visitors are actually passing by. Let me tell you, the entire area is fully cordoned off. The roads outside this particular stadium are completely closed because it is the protocol issue, because both the PM are going to watch this particular match together. And let me tell you, lot of planning have been done inside, because this particular match has been celebrated as the 75th year of cricket friendship between India and Australia. A special chariot or a boogie, which I will tell, a vehicle which has been made, in which both the PM will be actually taking a lap of the entire stadium. And let me cut across to the live visual how the fans over here are coming and cheering for India. And let me tell you, they are all chanting Modi, Modi as well. So we'll speak to them as well. And कितने excited है आज के मैच के लिए?
आज के मैच के लिए एक्साइटेड है कि मेन तो अपना इंडिया है, और उसके बाद यहाँ पे नरेंद्र मोदी जी आने वाले हैं.
नरेंद्र मोदी के लिए भी खास है.
हाँ जी, फैन है उनके यहाँ पे.
Okay. Yes, yes.
All right, Saurav, thank you so much for that update. We'll keep coming back to you as the day progresses. As we've been mentioning here on India Today, it's a big day, not just for cricket, but for cricket diplomacy as well. And joining us live from the Narendra Modi Stadium, one half of the Border Gavaskar Trophy, that is Sunny Gavaskar, will soon be joined by the other half in Alan Border. But Sunny bhai, firstly to you, you've covered many a test match, but you must be coming to the ground. You must have seen all the security, fans queuing up. Have you seen this sort of excitement before in an India-Australia test match?
Well, I can tell you, this is the first time I've actually, I'm coming to the ground when the moon is setting and not the sun is rising. Because I've taken a couple of pictures of the moon set as we've come to the ground. And it's still around, so the moon will probably take another 20 minutes for the moon to set. But so it's a different feeling altogether, but quite exciting to have the two leaders of the countries which are going to be doing battle on the cricket field, to have the two leaders coming down to especially watch the game. I think that's a very exciting feeling.
Is India-Australia cricket now hotter than the Ashes? I mean, the Australian Prime Minister said, there is this fierce competition, but is this the big thing now?
Yes, I think this rivalry is, I don't know about the Ashes situation, but I think this rivalry definitely is something that the cricket fans of both countries, and in fact, cricket fans all over the world look forward to, because it is well fought. Teams are very, very, very competitive. There's some unbelievable talent in both the teams. There are great players in both the teams. And so therefore, I think cricket is always very exciting when India and Australia play against each other.
All right, Saibai, just in terms of the series, it is being held at the Narendra Modi Stadium. Both the Prime Ministers are going to be there. Do you think this is the ideal venue, the perfect venue? One, because it also overtakes the MCG as now being the biggest cricket ground in the world, and it's a series between India and Australia. And if there is a place for cricket diplomacy, no better venue than this one?
Absolutely. No question about it. I think this is a magnificent venue. I mean, what, Motera has become since the time we first played in 1983 to what it has become now, it is absolutely spectacular. I was in the car with Matthew Hayden, and as we were entering the stadium, he said, this is a proper stadium. Mind you, he's been here before for the IPL finals last year. But, every time you come to Motera now, you continue to, get more and more impressed with what you see. So clearly, I think, yes, I think it's a spectacular venue. It'll be a record when, more than 100,000 people turn up today and maybe over the next couple of days. So I think, yes, for the final match of the series to be played in Ahmedabad, I think this is absolutely very, very appropriate.
Right, Saibai, could you put this into cricketing context? How important is this test match? The series is at 2-1. Of course, there's the World Test Championship also to look forward to. But in terms of, a visiting team coming here, the series is at 2-1. Seldom do we see any visiting team win 2 test matches on Indian soil. Then the entire controversy around the pitches. Just put into context, how important is this test match?
This is important for a lot of reasons. Firstly, for India to win and make sure that they qualify for the World Test Championship. So it's important from that aspect. It's also important from the fact that if India go on to win, and obviously then they will play Australia in the finals, it's more of a psychological advantage that once down the road, when you play Australia in the finals, you've just beaten them 3-1. So in that aspect, never mind if you have beaten them in India and English conditions might be slightly different. You get that confidence. And as a team, you want to always show that when you play against the number 1 team in the world, that you're better than them. So in that context, I think it's a very, very crucial test match.
A crucial test match indeed. Saibai, have you had a chance to look at the 22 yards, or what are you picking up from there? Because as I mentioned, the biggest talking point has been the pitch. But traditionally also, what do you expect how the Motera pitch is going to play in the next 3 or 4 days?
No, I haven't actually gone down as yet to the center. I'm looking to go down, and I've got to do my pitch report a little later. So after this is done, I'll go down and have a look at the pitch. But look, I think too much is made of a pitch, particularly when it concerns pitches in India. There's always this little talk about it. People making excuses in case they lose. Oh, this is doctored. This is this, as if pitches overseas are conducive to visiting teams. Never. Wherever you, and that is the big plus. That's a big advantage. That's a big challenge when you go overseas to play. When you go to England and play in England, the pitches are there which seam. So that's a challenge. When you go to Australia, South Africa, the pitches are pitches where there will be a little more carry and bounce. So that's a challenge. To expect the pitches to be as similar as the ones that are back home is ridiculous. It just absolutely nonsensical, because you won't get them.
Right. Saibai, just talk to us a little bit about India-Australia cricketing relations as well. As we've been mentioning on our broadcast, 75 years of India versus Australia cricketing relation. The first ever tour that India went on overseas was to Australia in 1947. Since then, you've been part of many battles between India and Australia. How do you see the cricketing relations over the years between India and Australia?
I think the cricketing relations have improved. Most importantly, I think Cricket Australia has recognized what Indian cricket brings to the table. Look, I think when we go back, 1947, immediately after we got independence, 3-4 months after that, was the first tour that India made to Australia. The next tour was 1967. In between, there were 3 tours by the Australian teams to India. Those were the days when television was not a factor. Those were the days where gate money was the factor. And India obviously wasn't considered an attractive proposition. So it took 20 years for the Indian team to go. The next trip the Indian team made was 10 years later in 1977, when World Series cricket was first formed. And that is when it was such a close series. And that is when a lot of the Indians were already now had moved to Australia to study and to be professionals there. So there was a lot more gate money coming through. After that, things changed, and Australia started inviting India quite regularly. But ever since the IPL has started, and India has started to become the financial engine of world cricket, everybody wants India to come, regularly. So we've had this situation where India was in Australia 2018-19, and then they were there in 2020-21. So within 2 years. So that is the understanding that now the cricketing world has about Indian cricket's drawing power. And I think that is being recognized by the Australians. Also, by now having a 5 test match series, not a 4 test match series, now between India and Australia. One more test, that much more money coming into the coffers through television. So I think that is something that Australian cricket has recognized. I think it'll be also fair if Australian media recognizes what Indian cricket does. Indian cricket and IPL has made millionaires out of Australian players. So I think when the Australian media does write about the pitches, etc., I think they should be a little more considerate of what Indian cricket has done for Australian cricket.
All right, Saibhai, thank you so much for joining us on this special broadcast. Of course, Sunny Gavaskar now needs to head to our sister channel, AajTak, and shortly we'll hear from the other half of Border Gavaskar Trophy, as I've been saying. That is the other man to have scaled 10K after Sunny Gavaskar, that is Alan Border. Saibhai, thank you so much for joining us on India Today. He'll be up on AajTak shortly. But Gaurav and I will continue with our broadcast. So as you heard from Sunny Gavaskar, such fond memories of India versus Australia. But very interesting to note, that's why I say that, Mr. Gavaskar he has a bag full of knowledge when it comes to cricket.
Oh,
47 you toured, and the next over was in 67. Yeah.
So one, he's an encyclopedia. Two, he's been there. What's the kind of pressure that players are under when 2 prime ministers are watching them? When the entire world, practically the cricketing world, is watching them?
Well, that's I think, a very pertinent question, Gaurav. That's because, usually there is so much of pressure, so many eyeballs on India versus Australia, as we've been talking here, the biggest series, then the kind of build-up that we've had for this. And you want to put your best foot forward when the Prime Minister of the country is there. I know that every time you step onto the cricket field, ask any player, he'll say that, he wears his jersey with a lot of pride. He's wearing his heart on his sleeves, representing India. But when the Prime Minister is there, you understand that the pressure is a lot more. We've seen it in the past when you've had visiting Prime Ministers, and usually you used to have visiting Prime Ministers from Pakistan. You remember in 87, Ziaul Haq came for the 87 Test match in Jaipur. The only unfortunate bit about those 2 meetings, there was Ziaul Haq who came in 87, and then Pervez Musharraf came in 2005. On both those occasions, India ended up on the losing side. But I'm looking at the brighter side. 2011 semi-final, India versus Pakistan. You had head of both states. That game, India won.
Absolutely. Of course, Pakistan, there's no bilateral cricket, and thankfully, no bilateral cricket till the time Pakistan stops terror. But what's extremely important is Australia. The rivalry between India and Australia, that's huge on ground. And I want to once again cut across to India Today's Saurav Akhtania, who's joining us from Ground Zero. And Saurav, there is tremendous excitement. The 2 young ladies you were speaking to, they were excited not just about our cricketers, but also our Prime Minister being there. Our crowds coming in big numbers, because even in Australia, that's one big talking point. The MCG 1960 record of maximum crowd for a test match likely to be broken this morning.
Well, absolutely, Gaurav. Let me tell you that it's the world's biggest cricket stadium here in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. And look at the excitement over here. There are so many people, and the seats are almost full over here. That is what the GC officials are also telling us. And they are over here. And let me tell you, there's so much excitement over here, not just for the 4th test match, Gaurav, but they want to see their own Narendra Modi, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi has a huge fan following over here in Gujarat, and this is the welcoming which has been received by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And here you can see that how this is the main gate from wherein all the visitors are actually right now going inside this particular statement. The match is going to start at 9:30, but what I've been told that 8:30 both the PM will be arriving over here, and there is so much of excitement. We'll speak to them and all the people over here that how much they are excited, कितने excited हो that today is the fourth test match, final test match.
बहुत एक्साइटेड है हम लोग, क्योंकि मोदी जी भी आने वाला है और उससे बढ़कर क्या होगा हमारे लिए, और जीतेंगे।
मोदी जी के लिए खास आप सब लोग आए हैं।
हाँ, खास आए हैं, मोदी जी आए इसीलिए तो हम लोग खास आए हैं।
You can see, Gaurav, that not just the fourth and the final test, but there is a huge fan following of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he is going to watch this particular match sitting inside the Narendra Modi Stadium for the very first time. We are expecting that over 1 lakh people will be joining over here, and we'll speak to more people over here. कितने एक्साइटेड हो आज के मैच के लिए, क्या लग रहा है?
एक्साइटेड है। पहले तो मोदी को देखना है हम। मोदी के स्टेडियम में मोदी को ही देखने आएंगे ऑफ कोर्स।
मोदी जी को देखने के लिए आए।
मोदी जी को आए ना, और तो क्या ही है। और कोहली को भी। कोहली
फेवरेट क्रिकेटर कौन सा है?
कोहली, रोहित शर्मा।
विराट कोहली
इंडिया फेवरेट है हमारे।
गुजरात से अक्षर पटेल है, रविंद्र जाडेजा बहुत इनफॉर्म खेल रहे हैं।
गुजराती है सारी, जो ही है
फॉर्म में आ जाएंगे। अब फुल सपोर्ट होगा यहाँ से।
देश हो या क्रिकेट की टीम हो, गुजरात के ही लोग चलते हैं।
बहुत सपोर्ट है आप लोग।
फुल सपोर्ट है।
So Indians will definitely get a huge support from the fans over here, because what I'm seeing from here on the ground, Gaurav, let me tell you, most of the the crowd over here is most of them the Indian crowd. So the Indian team is going to get a huge support. Let's understand that over 1 lakh people will be present inside the ground, most of them cheering for the Team India. There will be a huge pressure on Team India as well. But let me tell you, they have an advantage point over here. So let me tell you about the security arrangement. Gaurav, over 3,000 police officials have been deployed outside the entire Narendra Modi Stadium for the security protocol. Some of the roads are completely barricaded inside the stadium as well, but both the PMs will be sitting. The side-by area is also being cordoned off. That is what we are being told. So this is the situation right now on ground over here. At 8:30, both the PMs will be arriving, and there is a chariot, a boogie type of vehicle which has been made. It will be taking an entire lap of the stadium. So there is a lot of excitement, and therefore the visitors, the people, the crowd is coming up so early since morning over here.
So crowds have been coming in early. We had Sunny Gavaskar with us on the broadcast, and he said this is the first time that he's reached a stadium not to see the sunrise, but actually see the moon set. And now all eyes will be on those 22 yards and the two prime ministers taking their lap around the Narendra Modi Stadium around 9 in the morning.